5007cc, 235 horsepower, and strictly rear-wheel drive. If you haven't figured it out yet, today on the channel, we are bringing a bit of America by discovering this beautiful Corvette C4 from our friend Alberto. So, subscribe to 0122 Motori, remember to hit the bell icon, and enjoy the show. The Corvette is a successful series from the Chevrolet brand that has seen various versions over the course of more than 50 years. From the most iconic, say, C1, C2, and C3, over time, the American brand has always worked to make its product appealing, even overseas, introducing cutting-edge stylistic solutions and improving the quality aspects of the vehicle itself. In this journey, the Corvette C4, the star of this video, stands as a car that bridges the old concept of the automobile and the one that accompanied us to the brink of the new millennium, as there were numerous interventions that projected this model into the future. The design is one of those aspects. The Corvette C4 was developed to make it functional while prioritizing the aerodynamic look, and looking at it from the side, I would say they really succeeded. A stylistic highlight is the pop-up headlights that open with a 180-degree turn, as well as the attention given to the rear design, which elegantly frames these light clusters and the four exhausts, reminding us that there is something truly important at the front. Then getting to the heart of this car, I absolutely love the engine compartment that showcases this powerful 5.7 V8 engine with clear American characteristics and these exposed front wheels. It's beautiful that the fender rises with the hood. It gives a very racing look. Inside there is no lack of space. The Corvette C4 is traditionally a two-seater, but the cabin is very spacious. The seats are very comfortable and the dashboard is entirely digital. We are in the 80s, and at that time this aspect was very popular. This model can be equipped with a 4-speed manual transmission, and for the rest I would say let's discuss it on the road with our friend Alberto. So here comes Alberto. Let's talk a bit about some highlights of this car. By the way, congratulations, 30 years guys, this car looks like it just came out of the dealership yesterday. So Alberto, tell us a bit about some buying tips, let's put it that way.
So I got this Corvette C4 out of passion because in those years, we're talking about the very early 90s, I was working for an American multinational. I was in the United States and I was driving the American cars of that time. A strong roar, but one that has been surpassed was a Corvette C4. When I saw it with this design, with this roar and everything, I fell in love with it, and then I said to myself that sooner or later I would buy it, and in fact I eventually bought it.
And then it arrived, and then it arrived.
As for...
Exactly, did you get it from a private seller or how did you choose it?
I bought it from a private seller, a classic web search. Initially, one might think it was imported from the United States, but it's too complicated back and forth. In the end, I chose to buy it from a private seller. I tried to find a car that was already in good condition because the goal was to drive it right away. While there are people who take on a project and then enjoy bringing it to excellent condition for driving it, I really want to use it and make a few small adjustments.
So not a project car for you, but a car to enjoy right away.
To be enjoyed right away with small things, manageable calmly, not crucial in short.
Okay. So, how much did you pay for this car? I've seen the current prices for used models, and they have appreciated a lot recently, partly because they are 30 years old, and also due to the tax breaks that unfortunately are coming in Italy.
The market is also changing, let's say, the classic car market. All of them have shifted their focus towards investments in products that can be Italian, European, American, or otherwise. Clearly, the market value is linked to many factors. First and foremost, the originality of the vehicle. The second aspect is the condition of the vehicle, and the third aspect is how it has been maintained. Therefore, the combination of these three factors can determine the price. It is clear that if you take a project car like this, you might find it for around 8,000 euros, but you may need to spend perhaps 20, maybe 30 and you could already be at 30, 35, or 36,000 euros.
In my opinion, it's worth getting one, at least as I see it. Then there are those who have the idea of the project car and don't care about the money. As you rightly said at the beginning, it depends on the goal that each of us sets. Anyway, I've seen that the Ford was liked from around 9,000 euros up to 28,000 for a car that, clearly, I wouldn't say is a show car, but it's not far off. Let's say 28,000, 30,000 euros, in perfect condition. At this point, I would say, let's get in the car so we can also feel the essence of this powerful engine, because one buys a Corvette also to hear the sound, right? The 5.7 American V8 needs to be heard. Classic V8, great torque. And then maybe we can take a little drive on these nice roads so we can get to know it from the inside as well. Let's get comfortable inside. Come on, let's go, Alberto.
Temperature, do you feel how the overdrive has engaged? The overdrive engages when the water temperature of the engine exceeds 50 degrees.
Okay, let's explain this overdrive. I understand. It's a solution to reduce fuel consumption.
To reduce fuel consumption, shorten the gears practically to long, shortening half a gear. So if I have the D engaged, the overdrive is activated. If I press, you see, there is also an efficiency indicator here that tells you to change gears. Well, I got that. There it is, the arrow. Yes, because even here, having a lot of torque at 5,700, we are at 900 RPM and already in fourth gear with the last gear. And we can stay like this. We can even go up to 240 km/h in the same gear. Now, regarding the overdrive, how much does this car consume per liter? So in highway driving, it averages about 10 kilometers per liter. Okay? In mixed driving, it's around 7.5. Urban driving, really. Urban driving increases, and so on.
Well, it also depends a lot on the caution you use with your foot, right?
In management, if you handle it normally, it's one thing. If you handle it nervously, it's another.
Another curiosity that Alberto has is that since Americans have different types of gasoline and also use octane ratings, which gasoline can we use? The regular green gasoline.
The regular unleaded, which has 95 octane. If you put in 100 octane or things like that, the engine control unit clearly notices and changes the response on the map.
So it performs better. Does the car reward you? Oh yes, it's like modern cars. But can it also run fine without any issues on 95?
Absolutely, even with the 90 Q8.
Okay. Let's see, this is a first version, so everything is digital. The latest ones I've seen have the analog instead of the digital display.
The dashboard is analog and not digital. It is the one from 1990 onwards.
Then you also told me that this roof here is basically reversible, so it becomes anti-drag.
Exactly, it becomes a convertible. The rear window opens, you lean back, and at this point, you travel with the wind in your face.
And anyway, inside the space, I know something else just like you do. Anyway, the cabin is big.
The cabin is spacious because, on average, the build of the average American is somewhat larger, let's say, than that of the average Italian.
That said, the cabin is large, the interior is large, the engine is large, everything is large, even the tires, you told me, because this one mounts, you were saying in the discussion about the tires.
255, 56. This year,
it is a tire that is difficult to find.
Very difficult to find, because very few cars have them. The assembly of this car, being an Italian model, is done by a company with a red head, and from this perspective, the production is low. And the costs are also high.
16-inch wheels, and then you can smell that typical scent of the 80s, almost like gasoline. You can really smell the fuel when you accelerate. You you feel something. But on the level of what I call defects, to label something as a defect, you would need to think back to the 80s, because we have become accustomed to parameters that are now modern car standards. Do you think the braking is good?
No. The braking system is undersized compared to the vehicle, so you have to be very attentive to distances. If you give it a bit of gas, you need to anticipate the braking well in advance compared to what you would expect from a modern car, or even from a modern hatchback. Or if you're on board a Ferrari or Porsche, you arrive at a stop, release the gas, and the car, let's say, was also undersized back then for a vehicle with this kind of power. It's true that Americans have huge spaces, so an American never drives in a way that requires emergency braking, right? So, as advice for purchases, no. If someone wanted to approach the world of the Corvette, specifically the Corvette C4, do you think it's worth joining a club? I mean, with clubs, the important thing is that you have many people who have expertise on the vehicle and provide added value, because there are peculiarities, specifics, and aspects that a person approaching for the first time may not know. Even if it is documented, there are always things that are useful to know, in short.
When you bought it, did you move in this direction, or did you already have some skills about the vehicle that led you here?
I had some basic knowledge about the car that practically led me to make a choice, and after the purchase, I joined the then club, which was the only important club in Italy, Scuderia Corvette Italia, where all the Corvette enthusiasts from across Italy gathered. I see the door that is halfway. Is this elevation a structural thing? It's structural. It's part of the frame. For the roof, I imagine, right? Probably yes, I think so. Because it has greater rigidity. In short, it's easy to overtake. Anyway, let's say it's easy to overtake when you become too old and uncomfortable, like all cars. Exactly. In terms of purchasing advice, Alberto, if you had to give some advice or details to keep in mind during the purchase, not defects but peculiarities, that this is an element that suffers. What should one be careful about when buying a Corvette C4? Well, the mechanical part for sure, the electrical wiring, how it has been managed and treated, because clearly these are wiring systems from many years ago. So these are the things that, well, the engine is robust. Anyway, it's a very strong engine, an infinite engine. You can also feel how it pushes when it heats up a bit, especially in second gear at 100 km/h.
The car that has been satisfying for 30 years. This is the car you buy because you are passionate, because one has a passion for engines. This is a car where you don't think about how much the gasoline costs at the moment when you hear the roar of the engine. So we have reached the conclusions of this video. The Corvette C4 is definitely an interesting car, a unique car, because it paved the way for the Corvettes of today. First of all, I want to thank Alberto for giving us the opportunity to make this video about this fantastic car, which has been kept in exemplary condition despite being 30 years old. Congratulations, Alberto, thank you. And what I wanted to say at this point is that if you want to get into this world, choose a manual one, like our friend Alberto's, perhaps with a color combo that is of interest, because surely over time they will gain value, which they have already done in the last few years. So I thank you for following us up to now. I wish you a good day, and goodbye, everyone.
you.